Hi guys, my name is Mackenzie. Welcome back to my channel where we talk about personal finance, faith, and lifestyle. And today, specifically, we will be going over my monthly budget breakdown where you'll see me use the zero-based budgeting method. If you haven't seen my last video, that's where I talk about the how-to of budgeting. I give you 6 steps, and today I will be using those 6 steps to build my most updated budget. And although I get paid on a bi-weekly basis, I always like to keep my monthly budget up to date so that can show me at a bird's eye view what all of my bills and expenses are for the month, how much money I have coming in, how much I'm expected to have going out. And then for my bi-weekly breakdowns, when I actually get paid is when I reference my monthly budget and make sure that everything is aligned. But just as a quick reminder of what zero-based budgeting is where every dollar, every penny has a specific purpose and it all goes to a specific place once you get your paycheck. Also, I budget personally using pen and paper, which I know might sound lame, or you guys might have a different way that you like to go about budgeting, like a digital tracker or something like that. Me personally, I haven't found one that I really enjoy yet. I also haven't done a super deep dive. I'm sure there are some great ones out there, but pen and paper is my preferred method, at least for now. If you guys enjoy the way I budget and you would like to see either a downloadable and printable template of what I use, I am more than happy to develop something. I'm also more than happy to put together an Excel or Google spreadsheet for those of you who do like digital tracking. So just let me know in the comments if that's something that you would be interested in for the future and I can start working on that. But today you will see me using pen and paper, my budgeting journal. This is always the approach that I've taken. It just works the best for me. But all right, let's go ahead and jump into the video. All right, guys, so this is my monthly budget setup. Like I said before, I just use pen and paper, nothing crazy. I've done this for years. I've gone through many of these exact same journals over and over again. I'm just gonna show you the way I would generally go through and update my monthly budget. Now, just to be clear, I don't do this every month. I only do this when updates are necessary. So if I get a raise, if there's been an increase in a bill, a decrease in a bill, anything like that, then I will update this. That's why it says updated as of today's date, July 10th. But in the future, that could change on any given day, just depending on the circumstances. My bi-weekly budget breakdown is what happens every 2 weeks, regardless of the circumstance. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get right into it. So normally I don't necessarily break it up this much, but for transparency's sake, I wanted to show you guys what each category is looking like. So generally when I do this, my rent, amenities, and Wi-Fi are all included just because they all get taken out by my apartment complex. I'm very limited in who I'm allowed to use Wi-Fi from, so it's all included, but for today's sake I'll just show you guys so that you know how much each bill costs individually. So my rent is $1,220 and my amenities, which includes, I believe, trash and pest control, are $30. So that would bring us to $1,250. Also, I live in a 1-bed, 1-bath apartment in Austin, Texas. So just for context. Then for my Wi-Fi, again, that gets taken out altogether, but my Wi-Fi, I have no other choice but to pay $60. And then also, this gets taken out on the first of the month, as well as first of the month. For water, that also gets taken out the same time as my rent. And because it's dependent on my usage, I just try to track what I use on average. So generally that would be no more than $50 for me. So as I mentioned in the how to budget video, I always just recommend highballing it when you can, just because at least if it's not as much as you anticipated, then great, you have more money, no problem. So in this case, I would put $50, and then I would just put approximate. That also comes out on the 1st. And then my electric bill also comes out on the 1st. So with this, it's been a lot higher lately, I would say, just due to it being summertime and running the AC a lot more. So I've been trying to keep costs down, but it just is what it is. So in an effort of being realistic, I'm going to put 120. I would rather have the money and not need it. So that one's another approximate. All right, so then for my car and renter's insurance, that comes out on the 10th of each month. And that just recently went up a decent amount. That was very disappointing. I actually got misquoted for what my car insurance would be. I recently got a new car, and when I reached out to my insurance company, normally I would call them, but in this case, they've always made it seem like you can just go through their online portal. And so when I did that, it misquoted me. So I got the car under the impression my insurance would be one thing. Then I got my first bill and was devastated and started crying. So this is actually where I'm at, is the $293.39. And then for Spotify, that comes out on the 12th of each month, and that costs $12.97. Again, as I mentioned in the how to budget video, I said to go through and highlight things in green that you need to have, things in yellow that you want to have, and things in red that just need to go. Spotify is an example of something that I would highlight in yellow personally, because it's not a need, it's a want. But again, this is one of my only subscriptions. Sometimes I'll get a subscription just for a month or so if it's a streaming service or something like that, but Spotify stays. So I'm keeping that. And then for my car payment, that also went up a lot from what I was previously paying, because I just purchased my car in April of 2025, and interest rates are very high right now. I have a 7% interest rate versus before I had a 3% interest rate, and my car payment was only $180 a month. So this is a pretty steep incline. I know a lot of people pay less than that, but I am not used to paying this much. So it truly grieves me, but very blessed to have a reliable vehicle. That now comes out on the 13th of each month. Also, you guys will see this in my bi-weekly budget breakdowns, but I will be splitting this in half every month and paying some in the beginning of the month and then paying again towards the end of the month. I can't remember, but I'm trying to split it up so that I pay less interest over time. And then for my phone bill, that is $44.74. That comes out on the 15th of each month. This is another area where I'm very blessed. I pay for my full phone bill by myself, but I pay it directly to my mom. I'm still on my family's phone plan, so it gets me a bit of a discount since my dad's in the military, but I do still have to pay my portion, which is the $44.74. And then I have iCloud, which don't know why I have it. Doesn't really seem to work or be effective when I need it to, but now I'm terrified to get rid of it. So that comes out on the 22nd of every month. And then lastly, my student loans, which are $161.72. And that comes out on the 28th of each month. And then I can also do a video that goes a little bit more in depth about my student loans, what that's looking like, what the total amount is, because it's definitely a lot lower than other people for sure. And then going down to expenses, we have my tithe money. I tithe every 2 weeks when I get paid, but my overall tithe amount for the month would be $532.82. Again, this doesn't have a specific date because it's in the expense category, so I leave that blank. For gas, I like to give myself $160 for the month, so basically $40 a week. If I know that I'm going to be doing a lot more traveling, I'll go ahead and up that if necessary, but normally $160 works just fine. If anything, I actually don't need $40 per week. Normally it's like $30, but again, I'd rather have it and not need it. Also for groceries, I give myself $2.50 a month. I don't know if that's too little. I feel like some people have huge grocery lists and huge grocery bills, but I do live alone. My fiance contributes to part of the groceries because he spends a lot of time here, but I still give myself $2.50 regardless of what he contributes. So that ultimately brings me to $3,327.93 between my bills and expenses. So that now brings me down to my monthly income, which is $5,246.80. We'll go ahead and subtract the bills and expenses from my monthly take-home pay. We'll get a total of $1,918.87. So then from here, I give myself the same spending money every month. I have done this for years. I also give myself a very limited amount of spending money. Yours does not have to be the same as mine. All of our budgets are going to look very different. But in my case, I keep it very, very low. Who knows? Some people might look at this and be like, girl, that's more than I have. Fair. For me and my income, I would say this is low, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later on in the video. But I give myself $400 of spending money for the month. So that is essentially $100 per week that I really have to make stretch. Regardless of my savings goals, this has pretty much always been the spending money I've given myself. When I made less income, I think my spending money for the month was $160, and I'm pretty sure it was $160 when I made less than half of what I make right now. So the fact that I've kept my spending money this low is honestly wild. I didn't think about it until I was sitting down to plan for this video, but yeah, I'm still gonna keep it the same. And I'm not so restrictive that I just keep it like this all the time. If I know I have something coming up with my girlfriends, I will budget for that. If there's something that I really want to go do, if there's something I really want to buy, I will just allocate more funds to my spending pile. But if I don't really have anything going on, 400 seems reasonable. Especially because, again, I have a fiance and he also will tend to pay for dates or things like that, so I don't always need a whole bunch of spending money. But that brings it to $1,518.87. So here, just for me to remember each category, you're always going to see me write B&E. That just means bills and expenses. I've done that forever. And then here we'll put spending. Also, because I get paid the same amount every 2 weeks, and I know what my budget is because I've done this for so long, I'm able to give myself $400 without really thinking about it. However, back years and years ago when I had no idea what I was doing and I didn't have any money, I would give myself spending money last. So I would make sure everything was allocated where I needed it to go, including credit card bill and all that kind of stuff, and whatever I had left was for spending. My max spending money would be like $160, but if I didn't have it, I didn't have it. So just keep that in mind. I would go through and make sure you have all of your bills and expenses included before you're giving yourself any type of spending money or a set amount of spending money. So next, this leads us into investments and savings. Out of this, I have an investing goal of, and again, this is a very arbitrary number, but $518.87 to bring it to $1,000 for my savings. So this will be for investments. This will be for savings. Again, this is pretty arbitrary at this point. There's no specific reason other than the fact that I need to be saving $1,000 a month because of just my current savings goals. But eventually, when things kind of die down, I'm going to try to pour a lot more money into my investments, but we can have a whole different conversation about that in a completely different video. So now, once this gets moved over to savings, we are left at zero. So again, that's the point of the whole zero-based budget, is to get ourselves down to zero. When I say every penny is allocated, I mean every single penny is allocated. So now I actually want to get into my budget split. I know that a lot of people have a budget split of 50-30-20. 50-30-20 generally looks like 50% of your income goes towards your needs. So your bills and expenses in this case. Then 30% will generally go towards people's wants, so they're spending money. And then 20% will go towards investments and savings. Well, in my case, when I actually broke this down when I was getting ready to film this video, I actually found that my needs, so my bills and expenses, actually comes out to 63.4%. My wants come out to 7.6%, and my savings and investments come out to... Hey guys, Editing Mackenzie here. So as I was watching this video back, I realized I made a grave error, which was doing my math wrong. I'm not good at mental math. I need to keep a calculator next to me in these budgeting videos because this was a total fail at the end here. So basically, I go on to say that my needs category was extremely high, which technically it is, but if you put your thinking cap on, my tithe money is 10%. Obviously. So that adds a huge portion to my needs category. Now, if I were to add that to my wants category rather than my needs category, that would bump up my wants category quite a bit. But actually, shockingly, it still wouldn't bump it up to being the typical 30%. It would still actually be less than 20%, which I thought was wild. And then with my savings and investments portion, that I just got the math dead wrong. If you look at my split, it's actually closer to a 50% needs, 20% wants, and still not even truly that. And then my savings and investment category is actually closer to that 30%, which I'm not mad at. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed my monthly budget breakdown. Like I mentioned earlier, I will be filming bi-weekly budget breakdowns so that you guys can stay up to date on my budgeting journey, see if I'm hitting my goals. I know that I kept things pretty vague in terms of my savings goals and things like that. You saw that my goal is to save $1,000 a month, but I didn't mention what these savings are for. So in a future video, I'm also more than happy to go over my high yield savings account with all of my buckets and just kind of give you an idea of what my current goals are and even future goals. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.